Hey, and welcome to Back to Basics Homestead. My name's Annie. Today I'm going to sow some seeds, show you an update on my seedlings, and I'm going to show you how I get started with my gardening and how I store my seeds. So today I am doing an experiment. With the course I'm following online, I have a lot of guidelines that I did not have before. So I am trying to sow 4 weeks earlier, a little bit less than that, probably a couple of weeks earlier, green onions. So I took out a seed mat, a worm seed mat, my seed starting mix, and since I'm doing an experiment, I'm using older seeds. So I made sure to have like a pinch. The seeds are pretty old, so the goal was to have about 10 seeds per little hole. Let's see if I can try to do this. Since this is a temporary location, well, growing space, I should say, because I took out most of my stuff for sowing seeds. I have to wash them, make sure everything's right. I will be using soil blockers more this year, and like my plugs usually are not like this or tugged, so that the kids don't play with it, because I don't want the kids like to play around with my stuff. But I do want to show you, I planted 5 tomato plants before the holidays, and I have 2 that are doing fantastic, and a third one that is coming behind, and I have 2 lazy ones here. And I came and I sowed some basil a week ago, and my lettuce is perking back up. I sowed this also just before Christmas. Spinach is not doing so well. I re-sowed some seeds, and I didn't fertilize them. I've been neglecting them a little bit, so I have to fertilize them. But I do want to give you a tip. If you're growing food inside and like tomatoes, let me see if I can zoom you in. So when you have plants like this, these you can pollinate with hands. You just have to tap on it a couple of times to make sure that pollination happens. You see, this one was pollinated, so I'm gonna have my first tomato very soon. I have 2 that have been pollinated. You just want to make sure that you tap, 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 and a couple of times a day you want to make sure that you shake your plants. By shaking your plants, what you're doing is you're mimicking the wind outside. And these are dwarf tomatoes, so I don't do anything with them. This is probably the biggest it's gonna get. And I chose the red robin tomato because you could put them in 6-inch pots, and it was perfect for indoors. So I'm really hoping to have a couple of tomatoes inside, and if this operation works, I will make sure to have at least, I sowed 5. Next year I'm going to double that, and I'm going to do it earlier so I can have tomatoes by the end of December or like end of January. That would be nice. Now I want to talk to you about a little bit how I'm getting started and how I am organizing my seeds. One of the first things that I do is I draw out my garden, and like, I don't know if you can see, but this is my in-ground garden. I have 10 beds on each side, and I just at first write what I think will go where. And then like my raised beds, same thing. This is like a rough copy of my raised beds. And after that, this is where I go from on the next steps, like finding out my next frost date, what varieties I want to plant. And then this is where I come back to the planner once all of that is done. And I write every single information that I need on a clean piece of paper to figure out what goes where. It's almost seed starting season. I just want to give you a little bit of tips before you get started, or not to get too overwhelmed. Number one, and this is what I say to everyone, find your last frost date. Don't take anyone's answer. Go Google what is my frost date, your postal code, your zip code, and you're gonna find it. Almanac website has a last frost date, and don't forget, those are estimate last frost date. So that's not like cold, hard, concrete, solid date. From what I've learned from my course online, from l'Académie Potagère, a course I'm paying and I'm following online, is to take about 5 to 7 days after that. So I no longer take May 12th, I take May 18th. What does this do? Last year I took May 12th and I sowed my seeds starting from that day. So they say 6 weeks before your estimated frost, you sow your seeds. So I was taking May 12th, and technically I'm supposed to transplant outside the long weekend of May, Labor weekend. I starts transplanting my stuff. And then May 19th, May 30th, for the past 2-3 years, I have a risk of frost. Well, I had to cover most of my tomato plants. Thank God I only plant my peppers first week of June, so I was okay with that, but I had to cover all of those tomato plants, which was a nightmare. So by taking that in consideration, I've been like using my experiences and my failures and my struggles. I no longer have trees inside the house, tomato trees, pepper trees, and when you take them outside to make sure that they're prepped to be outside, hardening off, if it's not ready to be planted, you're going to bring it back inside, back outside, back inside, blah, 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 back and forth. And then at one point, your plant is going to be root bound. And then when you're going to transplant it, it's going to be stunned. And then it's going to need to recuperate from that shock. And then they're going to start producing. So that, let's just say 55 days to maturity. Like after you transplant, the day after that, the countdown begins to 55 days. Well, that's no longer the case because your plant is stressed. So I'm using this trick, and from what I've been doing since last year, I always take like tomatoes, I only start them in April, like late March, beginning of April, and it was fantastic. And now with this, I'm going to take those two experiences together, and I'm going to see what I can do with my tomato plant. So find that date. So once that date is figured out, I use the free seed starting date calendar from Johnny Seed. So Google it, and I add in my last expected frost date plus 5 to 7 days. And then when you scroll down, you're going to see, like for example, May 18th, 2023, enter, and then if you look, broccoli, you started 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost. That brings you to the earliest you can start your seeds, March 23rd, and the latest is 6 of April. And then if you go down the column, you have setting out date starting from. So you can start transplanting about the end of April, beginning of May, your broccoli. So these are guidelines to help you out get started. After that, what I do is I take out my seed collection. I love these. These are photo cases. I got mine at Michael's, and at the time they were 19, no, maybe a little bit more than that. Or I'm gonna say about 20-ish, $25. Sometimes they do go on sale, especially in the United States. They go on sale often, and every single type of seed gets a little container. So spinach, kale, switch chard, they're leafy greens. I put them all together. My radishes all together. Rutabaga, turnips are all up together. Beets, carrots, and I have 2 cases like that. And I have a box that I have that used to be a bread box from Tupperware, and I just have my herbs and my flowers in there. And I also have to figure out where to put my peas and my beans, because peas are kind of thick, so I can only fit like a couple of seeds package here. And I started to buy in bulk since I've narrowed down most of my beans and my peas varieties that I enjoy. So this is how I store my seeds. I store them in a cool, dark place, ideally, and when I use it, it's in my seed station. It's always near me. I always take it out because I always work on it. Once you've taken out your collection, I usually take out a seed package that I want to sow, and I just make myself a calendar. I take out my agenda and I write that broccoli needs to be started out the date that I said, which is about March 23rd, and then I choose the varieties that I want to sow, and then I just start like that. This is where I write my sowing date, my transplanting date, and the about what date do I plan to harvest it. This is approximate. So usually bunching onions is about 50-ish, depending of the varieties. There's some are 50, some are 70. So you're gonna write that date. And then those 3 dates, they go in my planner. And for this particular green onion, on January 26th, I'm gonna sow some seeds, and then on 30th of March, I know that they have to be set outside. So that means they need to be prepared to go outside a couple of weeks before. And then I wrote about they're gonna be ready to harvest around the June 8th. But this is an experiment. Since this is done in my high tunnel, I am just approximately estimating those dates. And around the 8th of June in my planner, I'm gonna write that I have to go check in the high tunnel if the green onions are ready to be harvested. And I pretty much do this with every single seed. And I've divided that paper that I'm using into the spring, like winter, spring in the greenhouse, and then another one for 2023 spring and summer. Every single crop that I'm going to be planting is there. Then I have one for the fall, and then I'm going to have the same one for the greenhouse for fall and winter sowing. I feel that being organized this way, I know it's a lot of work because like I do plant a lot. Like I have flowers, herbs, a lot of cold hardy crops, peppers, eggplants, Swiss chard, like summer squash, winter squash, melons, cucumbers, and all of that. So I know it's a lot, but I feel that this is what I was lacking from the years prior, being so organized. And this is one of my 2023 homesteading gardening goals, to be much more organized so I can flip a garden bed in, like, let's just say that you sow some beets. The beets are done in 55 days. You flip it, plant something else, kale or another crop that you can flip really fast. Cilantro, you plant a bed of cilantro. The cilantro is bolted, take it out, you flip it, you a couple of rows of lettuce, then you flip it again, and you, like, this is why I want to be so organized this year, so I would be able to flip a garden bed really fast and produce more food on a smaller scale. So this is like completely new to me. Let's see if I can make all of this work. So I hope all of this helps. I know it's a lot of information. What I want to tell you is try. It's better to try than doing nothing. It's better to sow the seed than just looking at the seed package. It's better to start the seed, fail at starting the seeds, and then learn from that mistake and then do it again. You're gonna learn so much more by trying than not doing anything. So I hope all of this helps, and I hope you have a wonderful, blessed day. Take care. Bye.